G'day, Trooper Cody and Steve, and this video is about a man, and that man's name is Mustafa Kemal. Now, have you ever heard of him? And I wonder if anyone is going to initially say, don't you mean Mustafa Kemal Ataturk? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to start this story in 1881. That's when a man called Mustafa Kemal is born, grows a few years, becomes a young man, he's Turkish, and he goes into the Ottoman Military Academy. When he's 21, he comes out of the academy, a commissioned officer. So we're at 1902. Mustafa Kemal was graduated from the Ottoman Military Academy, and he's pretty much straight away into the thick of it as far as the military goes, being involved in civil conflicts, minor skirmishes, minor conflicts, and the Falklands conflict. So he is proven to be very intelligent, a great military leader, loved by his men, everything you could hope for in an officer, everything you could possibly hope for in an officer. And so what we find is that by 1914, when the First World War starts, he is actually a lieutenant colonel, and he's in charge of significant military forces. He is convinced that the Gallipoli Peninsula is going to be a theatre of war. Wasn't he proved right on the 25th of April 1915? And at that time he had command of the 19th Division of the Ottoman Army, the entire 19th Division. He may have been he may have been confident that there was going to be a conflict on the Gallipoli Peninsula, but when he was proved right, it happened somewhere other than where he was posted with the 19th Division. There was an officer in charge of the troops, the limited number of troops, where the Anzac landing took place. And that officer had the foresight to get his troops, get them on the high ground, get them shooting at the invaders and putting up something of a defence. Fortunately for the Turks, and I'm not sure if I should use the word fortunately or unfortunately, who was it fortunate for, who was it unfortunate for? Let's just say Mustafa Kemal was about 2.5 hours away on a fast horse from where the shelling started, where the gunfire was taking place, and he heard this was going on. He knew something was amiss. Officer, few men at the scene, trying to do his best to hold the invaders, not doing that brilliant a job, but at least the invaders didn't have a cakewalk. Mustafa Kemal asks for instructions from senior officers. He's told, do nothing, we don't know what's going on. Remember, this is the middle of the night because the invasion started after dark before dawn on the 25th. Do nothing, be damned. He immediately mobilises the entire 19th Division. Everyone out of bed, get ready, in uniforms, weapon up, be prepared. If I say go, you'll be able to go a moment's notice. He gets the whole lot ready. Dawn comes. He has still had no messages about what he should do. He makes several inquiries. What should I do? What should I do? Chomping at the bit, you can imagine, to get going. He eventually gets a message back that says, we don't think it's much. Can't be much. It's a feint. It's a feint. It's pretend. They're going to attack somewhere else. Just send a battalion to check it out. Again, be damned. He gets the entire 19th Division mobile and sends them to where the gunfire is coming from. He and a few of his select officers then, remember his troops are on foot, they're a forced march as fast as possible on foot. He and a few of his select officers ride off as fast as they can to preserve their horses to get to where the gunfire is. When he gets there, he immediately goes to the high ground. There's a great movie about the American Civil War called Gettysburg. Sam Elliott, great cowboy actor. He makes a big thing about the high ground, the good ground. Officers, immediately, you need advantages, get them from the terrain. So Mustafa Kemal goes straight to the high ground, and what does he see? He sees those few Turkish soldiers that were there running towards him, running from the Allies that are landing. He sees the Allies running up behind them. He shouts at the troops, "Stop!" They're in awe of this man already. He's well known. He has a famous reputation, and he's ruthless as well as fair. They stop. "We have no bullets," they say. "We have no bullets." He says, "You have bayonets. Fix your bayonets. Lie down and let the bayonets on the end of your rifles glint in the sun." The troops do what they're told. They fix their bayonets, they lie down. What immediately happens is the Allies' troops that were racing after the running soldiers drop. They don't advance anymore. They stop straight away simply by getting men with no bullets to fix bayonets and turn and face the enemy. He allows enough time for the 19th Division to arrive to fight the Anzacs that are landing. He may have a whole 19th Division, which includes artillery, but it's not enough to repel the Allies with certainty. But this is when he's made several famous quotes over his career, and this is when he makes his probably, how could this not be his most famous one? I'm going to tell you a couple others as we go, but what he says when the 19th Division arrives, he addresses his troops and he says, "I don't order you to attack. I order you to die. In the time it takes us to die, other troops and other commanders can come and take our place." And then he proceeded to lead his men into combat. And that was another thing he was renowned for, was the fact that he led from the front. He was always in the thick of it. He stayed at Gallipoli for the full 260 days of the campaign. He stayed there, always in the thick of it, and for the Turks was the hero of Gallipoli. So what happened to him after that? The Allies evacuated, they left Gallipoli. The war still had many years to go. The man continued in the military. Why then are there monuments and parks and statues of this man all around the world? At the UN Plaza in America. Well, that's because this man became what is described as one of the most important figures of the 20th century. You ever heard of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk? Yet he is described as one of the most important figures of the 20th century. Why? Because after the war was over, he ran for politics. He became the first president of Turkey. He disbanded the Ottoman Empire, and he set up Turkey as a whole new modern entity. And he was president for 15 years, president until he died. He introduced compulsory schooling, compulsory education. He backed that up by making it free, by instantly arranging for thousands of schools to be built in Turkey. He disbanded the archaic Turkish alphabet and changed the alphabet. He gave women equal rights, civil rights, political rights. He gave them the vote. This is all happening in the first decade after 1923. He introduced all manner of sweeping reforms into industry, modernising Turkey, made it a republic. The list of his achievements just goes on and on. So, I've told you what he did socially: schools, education, industry. But one of the other things he did was that he decided that you couldn't continue the Turkish way of actually not having surnames. Come around, mate. Come around for this. You couldn't continue in the Turkish way of not having surnames. So in my case, I'm Stephen Richard, and my brother's Richard William, and my dad's Richard William, and my granddad's Charles William, and Helen's Helen Mary. Well, imagine if none of us had surnames, it would be a little bit difficult. So he decided that also Turks had to move into the modern world from the perspective of having surnames as well. Rolling. Had a little bit of a horse glitch there. I was telling you about how one of his reforms was that he said had to introduce surnames. People had to have surnames if they were going to be in modern society. So what happened was Parliament picked his surname for him. They didn't let him pick his own surname. So when he had been called Mustafa Kemal, Parliament made him Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. And what Ataturk means in Turkish is father of the Turks. And that's the prestige, the award, I guess you could say, he got long after his death. He is still Mustafa Kemal, father of the Turks. So what I'm going to finish off with is probably what really is his most famous quote. I'll finish that. So I'm going to read to you Mustafa Kemal's most famous quote. He was a man who believed in peace, peace, peace. He wanted world peace, peace in Turkey. He said, peace at home means peace in the world. That was his personal motto. And in 1935, he wrote about Gallipoli. Those heroes that shed their blood and lost their lives, you are now lying in the soil of a friendly country. Therefore, rest in peace. There is no difference between the Johnnies and the Mermits. To us, where they lie, side by side, here in this country of ours. You, the mothers who sent their sons from faraway countries, wipe away your tears. Your sons are now lying in our bosom and in peace. After having lost their lives on this land, they have become our sons as well. Today we honour the men who fought on both sides at Gallipoli. We honour the countries from which they came, but above all, we honour the spirit of peace and friendship, which has proved to be an enduring legacy of the Gallipoli conflict. Cheers! And he rides off stage right.